If you have ever wondered what would happen if a comedy, hypnotist, and a mind reader turn their skills to email marketing, well, that is what we have today on the show. Rob and Kennedy have quite a different take on email marketing for small businesses that flies in the face of the old-fashioned beat people over the head until they buy, die, or unsubscribe mentality. Instead, they tap into the psychological techniques they've mastered in the world of showbiz to build deeper relationships with your email subscribers and make making sales really easy. Guys, I'm excited to have you on the show today. Welcome to the Course Creator Show.
Hi.
Hey, Gemma.
So excited. So if anyone who has ever listened to my show before knows anything about me, they know my love language is sending emails, and it is what I also live and breathe all the time as a business owner. You could take everything away from me in my business and leave me with my email list, and I would be fine. So before we get into some of the strategy stuff, what got you, how did you guys, you don't need to give me the whole story, but what brought you together and how long have you been doing this kind of work?
Yeah, so super briefly, as you said, I'm a hypnotist. I'm Rob, by the way. I'll be using this voice for the rest of the episode. I'm a hypnotist, and for the past almost 18 years now, in fact 18 years now, I've been lucky enough to travel around the world performing my show, and Kennedy doing the same as a mind reader, a mentalist, as you might call it in some parts of the world. And we met at a magic convention. It's literally the coolest place on earth. And we just became friends at the bar 20 years ago. And for me, I was just out of school. Kennedy was just out of university because he's a bit older than me. He groomed me as a friend. And basically, we both started a business by accident as entertainers. All we wanted to do was get up on stage and do gigs, but we ended up having to figure out this marketing thing and accounts and bookkeeping and all of the other crap that you got to do. And so we ended up just falling in love with email marketing, just because it was it was ideal for me. I'm a real introvert, so the idea of having to speak to people on the phone was awful. And also every time you do a sales call, it's slightly different. And whereas you can create an email campaign and it'll just run forever. And apart from little tweaks and refinements over time, it's always the same. Now, of course, emails changed a lot since 2007, 2008, when we started doing it. You couldn't do a lot with email marketing then. You could build a list and merge people's names in, and that was about it. And that felt
it was like witchcraft though, wasn't it? I mean, when you could do
fire
that
to the caveman. And so we just fell in love with email marketing, and it's the one thing that has just stood the test of time as everything else has come into fashion. Oh, it's Facebook pages this week. Oh no, it's Facebook groups next week. Email just continues to work, albeit having shifted and changed somewhat.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I started a blog back in 2010. That was how I got started online. It was about decorating my house, nothing to do with all my business. But the email piece was the most exciting part of that blog journey. And just it has stood the test of time. It continues to be the core strategy and element of my business to this day. And I also feel it helps you not have shiny object syndrome or not feel the pressure to be on every other platform. Do you guys find that?
Yeah, totally. I mean, the thing is with email is all roads kind of lead to email in a way, in that we send people to our content from email. So when we've got a new episode of our podcast, the Email Marketing Show, we'll tell our email list about it. Hey, this is happening. But also we move people from the podcast to the Email Marketing Show. So it's the same with Instagram and whatever we've got going on. It seems to be this hub. And I think the reason for that is it's kind of, well, first of all, you own the data, right? It's not like they shut down you get shadow banned or whatever, I don't even know the proper words, Instagram stuff. They're not very happy with you. You can't download your contacts from Instagram and upload them to your MySpace account and carry on. You can't do that, right? Imagine, you just can't do it. Whereas with email, let's say you've got an active campaign account or something, and you have a fallout with them because you accidentally do something naughty, obviously mostly unintentionally. You have a Barney with them, you download your data, you go across to Keep or whoever, and you upload a new account, and you can carry on with your business. So that's good. But actually, if you want to just model what's really successful, which is why people listen to your show, Gemma, because they want to know what you're doing that's so successful, and so we can all emulate that, is if you look at the biggest senders of emails in the world, they're the social media platforms. Do you remember when you first got a Facebook account? You would get an email from Zucks saying, "Oh, Gemma just poked you," and you'd go, "Great, I'll go and have a look." And then you went over to Facebook to see what that meant for a start. And so every single thing, someone's just tagged you in a photo, this has just happened, they're moving you from the place you already are onto their platform. And if it's good enough for them on a whopper scale, then it's definitely good enough for us because it's really affordable and it means we can directly communicate with people.
Yeah, great. Like, I never thought about it that way. And you're right. And what's really funny is that feels so long ago for me now, of getting those like incessant Facebook emails. But my dad only just joined Facebook, I don't know, maybe about a year ago. And it still happens, right? He's like, what is this poking? And, you know, liking and all of this stuff. And so I had to show him how to turn off the notification. So yeah, great point. You talked for a second there about, you know, how you use your email to send people to the show. I would love to get a sense from you, because I think that all of us in business, in online business, are doing content marketing in some way, shape, or form. Might be different platforms, what have you, but I would love to know your system of like, what comes first? Are you recording the show and then you're writing emails and then doing Instagram from the show? You know, how are you repurposing and leveraging the content and doing it in the way that kind of makes the most sense for you?
Yeah, it's a good question. So the way we do our email marketing is, there's two pieces to this. So let me talk about how we integrate the content marketing element of it, and then I'll let Rob talk about something we call email as a content channel. So because we want to make sure they're actually the same thing, right? But we'll talk about them in a second. So we have this concept that we don't really teach, but we sort of shared in some masterminds and stuff, called the content universe. And it's basically, imagine a solar system. And you have one piece of content. For us, it's our podcast, the Email Marketing Show. For you, it might be a blog or your YouTube channel or your whatever it's going to be, your Facebook, your Instagram lives, whatever. And that is like the sun. It's in the middle of your solar system. And then what you're going to do is, from that, you're going to create things that orbit that sun. You're going to create planets, right? And they're going to orbit that thing. So for us, that's going to be, okay, every week, we create a new episode of the Email Marketing Show. Great, that's the sun. On the outside of that, we're going to have maybe an email that goes out about it that week. Great. That's one of the planets orbiting that sun. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to probably create, I don't know what they create, 3 maybe Instagram posts, 4 maybe, I don't know, some Instagram posts also about that episode, and they come around that. And that's another 3 or 4 planets orbiting that sun. And then we create every episode. If people don't want to listen to the podcast, they can read it, because we turn them into a full, not show notes, blog posts that people can read in depth. That's another piece of content orbiting the sun. If you add Pinterest or whatever else you're going to do, each of those things is going to be orbiting that. And then from that, if you want, you can create moons which orbit each of those planets. So then you can then take out from each of those planets, like if it's going to be, we used to do a Facebook Live every week. We don't do that anymore just because of bandwidth and other priorities. But we used to take the podcast, and we used to have a planet of that podcast be the Facebook Live. And from the Facebook Live, we would chop up the bits of video from that and use it again. So now you end up with derivatives of derivatives. But the reason this metaphor is, I think, the best one that we've ever seen, obviously we created it to be that way, is because it means you're not pointing people in lots of different directions. Yeah. Instead, there is what we call only one Rome. Everything is pointing in the same direction. It's all going back to your sun content, to that primary piece of content. No matter whether it's a moon or it ends up being a rock orbiting a moon or whatever it's going to be, however diluted it becomes, it all ends up pointing people in the same direction, which is why we've been able to grow a podcast which has grown so quickly without any big list behind it or anything like that, just be able to do it what looks like organically. So that's how the content marketing of it works. Before we get on to how we actually use email as part of that, which I think is even more different. Have you got any questions on that?
No, that makes a lot of sense. And it's similar to what I do too. I talk about like having the one big idea per week. And so for you guys, that is you're on your podcast show, but for others, to your point, it could be that it's a YouTube video or that it's a really in-depth blog post that they wrote, but it's one idea. And then I talk about like a fanning it out. So it like fans out to all these other places, but very similar, which I love.
Awesome. So email fits into this in a kind of different way.
Yeah. So for us, email is not a sales mechanism. It makes sales, but it's not a sales piece. What most people do when they talk about email marketing is actually email sales. And that is they drop an email, however often they send one, 3 times a week, 4 times a week, once a month, twice a month, whatever. And they do it to make a sale. Or worse than that, they go quiet for months and then they're going to launch something and suddenly they're everywhere talking about the launch and stuff. And our approach is different. Our approach is that email is a content channel. It just happens to be the highest converting sales content channel that there is. And so basically what that means is we want to turn up with the same ferocity and the same frequency by email that we would be happy to with any other content mechanism. So for us, we have a really simple rule and it makes everything really easy to do. And that is this: when you join our email list, and we're really upfront about this and we sell it as the benefit, when you join our email list for free, we are going to email you every single day, 365 days of the year for the rest of your life, unless you decide to unsubscribe. And what that allows us to do is every single day, we're going to turn up with, the way we position it is, a short story, hint, idea, tip, or piece of inspiration that will help you with your email marketing. Now, what's great about that is it now becomes a really constant piece of our content marketing and everything and our sales mechanism, because you're going to join our list. We're going to email you every day. And I do most of the emails for this business. So between us, we send 4 daily emails for a multiple different brands and businesses. For this one, I send most of them. And literally once a day, I spend 10, 20 minutes, if that, writing a quick email, sending it out. It's got a structure to it, which we can unpack if you want to. And sometimes that will point people over to a piece of content. So it might be the fact that we are on this podcast. It might be your episode that we've recorded, spoiler alert, for our podcast. Whatever it's going to be. And what that means is that we can do that if we want to. And we don't do it every week, but we might do that like once a week. But equally, if we're doing a webinar or we're doing a thing and we want people to come to that, we're doing a Facebook Live. There was one night Kennedy was sat in the house on his own. So he decided to just go live on Instagram. And he said, dude, I'm going to go live on Instagram and do like a ask me anything thing at 7 o'clock. That was the call to action from that day's email. And what that allows us to do is to literally just direct the call to action of every email wherever makes sense at the time, in between us doing like big proper promotions. So like we're doing this launch. So for the next 2 weeks, that's really all the emails are going to be about. Or we're doing this webinar. So for in the build up and the aftermath of that webinar, that's all the emails are going to be about. But in between times, like we would probably only do typically like one of those things every like 6 to 8 weeks, 10 weeks, maybe. The next quarter, we happen to be particularly busy with life. So we're only doing one of those things. The rest of the time, email is just being used to keep our subscribers warm, engaged, excited, motivated, and moving. And we can send them to whatever we want to send them to. Now, in terms of how that fits with our content thing, basically once a quarter, we have a big planning session with our team. So that's me and Kennedy, Sarah, who does our podcast stuff, our graphic designer, Michelle, who's in charge of all our operations and stuff. We have one meeting and we say, listen, for the next 90 days, what are those 2 or 3 promotions that we're going to do? So we're going to do a webinar where we're going to sell our membership, the league. We're going to do this event, and then that's it. And then what we do is we put those into the calendar to decide where they're going to go. And then from those, we pull out what our podcast episodes are going to be, because otherwise we're randomly trying to come up with podcast content, as opposed to coming up with, for each of those things, maybe 2 episodes or 3 episodes that are going to build the beliefs that we want people to have in order for that promotion to go well. And then from that, we pull out, okay, great, roughly where are those emails campaigns going to fit? And in between the email campaigns, we're just sending daily emails about whatever happens to be relevant at the time. And so because we just have this rule of we're going to email you every day about whatever's most relevant at the time, that makes the whole thing really straightforward.
Yeah, I love it. I would, the like voice in the back of my head is thinking, do you repurpose those emails? Are you putting anything, are you automating anything? Because I love to be able to step away from my business and have things like run, even when I can't be there. So I'd love to hear a bit about that.
So here's the thing. This sounds terrifying. We don't repurpose those emails. They don't go into an automation. They don't go into a blog. From one of my businesses, they used to go into a blog as well. So I felt like I was doing more with them. But honestly, that's just more steps. What you actually need instead, or what we needed instead, I should say, it's up to you what you need, I guess. But what we needed instead was a system to make it really easy and quick to send these emails, so that we can not feel bad about them being disposable, right?
Sure.
So I'll give you the way we do this. We teach this in a program of ours called the bottomless email strategy, because I'm dyslexic and I need it when I'm going to be sending emails, especially if I'm going to commit to doing it every single day. And the reason I do it every single day, by the way, it's not just because the results are amazing, but also it's like me standing up to dyslexia and going, I'm not going to let that hold me back. This is going to be my reason to do it, not my excuse not to. So what I do instead, what we needed to do is have a system that makes it really fast. Because the big problem we have, number one, is how do I come up with ideas for these emails? Like 365 days a year, we're sending emails. And that's just our emails, not the stuff that we create as systems and campaigns inside of our membership that we create for our members. Like that's more. So what we need to do is make sure it's impossible, not just like difficult to run out of ideas, but like impossible. So we feel confident that we can commit to doing it. And then we also want to make it fast to write. So here's the system. The first thing we're going to do is I write my emails each day the first thing in the morning. So I wake up, and I'm one of those really annoying early morning people. So I get up at like 5 a.m. and I go down to the kitchen. I stick the kettle on to make my first cup of tea of the day. And on my way there, I'm trying to think of a story. I'll give you a little hack in a second of how to come up with these stories. Each email starts off with a story, because I'm going to write this email in the time it takes the kettle to boil, right? So I'm going to write it and send it in that time. Now, to begin with, it might take me 20 minutes. It certainly did for me. It might take you longer. It might take you faster because you might not be dyslexic or whatever, right? So that's cool. The structure of that email is that we want to make sure we give value and we make an offer in every single one. And the reason for that is we want to reduce the number of mental calories. We want to reduce the amount of cognitive load that we have as a person sending emails to be able to send them more regularly. So how do we do that? Okay, so first of all, we don't want to be waking up going, can I sell today or do I have to give value? If I'm going to give value, what value am I going to do? Have you ever tried to sit down and write value? That's really tricky. When people go, give value, man, just give value. What the hell's value, right? So this is all we do. It's a 3-phase formula for writing these emails. And it's 100% pretty much of our emails are this formula. The first part is a story, and that story is not to do with anything about your product or service you sell. It's only there to serve the emotional needs of your audience. It's the things they can resonate with. So, you know, most of our audience are people working from home, so they're dealing with the same stuff. You're on a Zoom call or you're recording a podcast and the Amazon delivery guy knocks at the door, or the kids run in, or the dog does that, or the cats go mad, whatever. All of the millions and millions of things that we can all identify with. Or something we can't identify with, something that's mad that happened in your life today. This weird thing happened. We're going to tell a story about that. And then all we're going to do is move that into the next phase, which is what's the lesson? So you got story and then lesson. What's the moral of that story? As my audience needs to hear it, what can we learn that's of value to the audience as it relates to, in our case, email marketing? For you, whatever that thing happens to be, right? So one of Rob's stories that he told during, I think it was, during the pandemic was, I ordered a new mattress online and I'd never ordered a mattress online before, where you can't go in the shop and the store and sit on the thing and see how soft it is. That was the story. Really short, right? But then the lesson from that was selling anything on the internet's really tricky because people can't hold it and touch it. And we've got to work really hard to do that. And that's what we can do with amazing email campaigns, by building up the beliefs through a series of emails. There's the lesson. That's a valuable lesson to your audience who's going to go, you know, no wonder when I send one email out about my product doesn't make any sales, because I need to make a chain of emails that's going to do that. So we had a story and a lesson. That's 2 pieces of value. Stories are valuable. That's why we pay for Netflix, some of us. And that, and then the lessons got value in it. And then the third phase is an offer. And that offer can be paid, it can be free. It doesn't matter. And that's where you get to help people take that story, that lesson, to the next level. Hey, we talk about that more on this week's episode of the Email Marketing Show, or we're talking about that more in our program. This is my program, or my membership, or this other thing. So it's story, lesson, offer. And if you do that every single day, you automatically, without having to think about it, outweigh offer to value 2 to 1 every single time. And you can't help it. There's always 2 bits of value to 1 offer every single time. You don't need to think about it. And it always happens. And sometimes you'll be sending people to a free thing. Come and check out the free thing. Sometimes you'll be sending out an offer to a paid thing. And that's totally fine. but it's story, lesson, offer. And here's the trick to coming up with the story. Because everyone's now thinking, all right, that's great, but my life's boring. Look, first of all, we all think our lives are boring. We all think that. But we also all watch terrible soap operas and reality TV where we think that's really interesting. We're all voyeuristic by nature. We want to just check with the rest of the world that we're not the weirdest person in the world. And that's what that allows us to do. So how do you come up with a story? We came up with a psychologically stacked, really simple question you can ask yourself that allows you to figure out a story. We've got lots of different techniques for doing this, but here's one of them. Just ask yourself this question. What is the least boring thing that happened in the last 24 hours? Don't say what's the most interesting thing, because your brain will go, nothing interesting ever happens to me and I'm boring. Instead, if you say, what's the least boring thing that happened in the last 24 hours, you'll latch onto something. Mm-hmm. Tell the story about that. Turn it into a lesson, turn it into an offer. And here's the real key. Don't even consider for a second what the lesson is or how it relates to the offer while you're writing that short story. Don't let that be another clogging up. Just write the story down. The entire email, on average, ours are about 175 words. That's it. They're really short. Story, lesson, offer.
That's powerful. I'm thinking, as you said all of that, I was thinking, how can I test this? Because for me to commit to it feels scary, but I was sort of thinking like, okay, what if I did like over the summer, like a 60-day test, you know? And that's where my brain goes with these types of things. And that is so interesting. And I think that one of the, I think something that often happens for people is that if they're only sending one email a week, it has to be the email with like all the best things, and it has to do all the jobs, which feels overwhelming. And therefore, sometimes people just won't write it at all, or they do go and write it and it ends up being a book. And often
that's the problem.
Yeah.
The problem with these once a week emails or maybe twice a week sometimes is they're long. Mm-hmm. The problem with that is that takes you ages to put together. Yeah. The second problem with that is you're putting all of your eggs in that one basket. The third problem is if it's really long, the number of people completing that email and reading all of it is very, very low. Yeah. Very, very low. You may as well split it all out. Here's another thing. Actually, emailing more regularly improves your email sender reputation, because you're giving Gmail and the others more data. Like when you have a credit score because you've had credit before, it's the same thing with email recipients like Gmail and stuff. They go, look, this person emails regularly, but people like it. They click their emails. They like it.
And have you heard backlash from, I would say like probably not your subscribers, given that you make that very clear. It sounds like from the front end of like what that's going to look like, but have any of your clients or students taken on this strategy, and have they had, if they've pivoted to it, has there been any negative stuff from their subscribers?
What's really interesting is we've had hundreds of people do this now, and in 100% of cases, they've come back and said, within days, my engagement is higher, my replies are better, everything's good. Of course, what we tend to recommend is if you currently email infrequently, or like 3 times a week or weekly, or if you currently email less than daily, and you want to try this, there's 2 options that you can take. And by the way, daily habits are much easier to keep than like 3 times a week habits. If the rule was right, if you went to the dentist and the dentist said, don't brush your teeth every day, that's bad for you. Instead, brush your teeth 3 times a week and not on Sundays. Make sure it's never a Sunday. That's a hard like pattern to stick to. You're definitely not going to do that. But because you brush your teeth every day, twice a day, once in the morning, once in the evening, you just can't go wrong. And so we just find this a much easier habit to stick to. And it's harder you have to be more disciplined to get going. But once you're into it, it's easy. Anyway, what's really great about this is that immediately within days, people start seeing this higher engagement. And all you have to do is to email your list and say, listen, you joined my list because you wanted help with whatever it is that you teach. And I realized that I could give you more value and show up more often and be here for you more. Above and beyond the lead magnet you requested, above and beyond when I launch my program. I want to be here all the time. And so from Monday of next week, I'm going to email you 5 times a week or 7 times a week with a short, and the key is just to frame it with a short story, hint, tip or idea or piece of inspiration to help you with whatever it is. And then basically do that and just step up to that. So say that this is what I'm going to do, and then step up to that level. Alternatively, we don't do this, but if you're a little bit nervous about that, one thing we have seen some people do is to basically email people, send them to a landing page where people can opt in to receive dailies. The problem with that is so few people are going to do it that you're just going to miss a whole bunch of your list. So we recommend to just pop the big boy or girl pants on and then go and just say, I'm going to step up, I'm going to email. If you don't want to hear from me with this short hint, tip, story idea, then just click the unsubscribe link or click this link and I'll just segment you out of those. The downside is if you end up with some people receiving daily emails, some people receiving weekly emails, it's kind of hard to manage and it's not very good. And the engagement is a little bit all over the place. So that's our kind of approach to it.
There's a thing as well, which is about the number of people opening your emails. If you send one email, what's the average open rate? Some people are over the moon if they get 10%. Some people are like, it needs to be 30, 40 would be great, 50 would be flipping amazing. Obviously, the number that your email marketing platform is reporting, that is the open rate, is broken. It can't be fixed. Thank you to Apple and Android. Apple's reporting everything as open. Android on some of the devices are blocking that reporting, but at least it's consistently wrong. So you can kind of get a consistent, inaccurate number. And what's interesting is if you send an email once a week, most people would be delighted with a 50% open rate, or 50, that's not even called open rate, 50% of their audience reading that email. The thing is, if you email every day, because people are in different spots when they're reading those emails, well, at the moment, we get in the course of 7-day period, 80% of our list will open an email and read it within that period. Mm. An 80% open rate in a 7-day period is like, well, it's incredible, right? Yeah. So, but that's only possible because it's stacked a day at a time. So if you want to get 80% of your audience to read your emails, you've got to send more emails.
So how do you make it work then if you do have some automations? Like, do you guys have any back-end evergreen things running, and how do they fit together?
So this is where we introduce something that we call the email engine. And here's how it works. It's really straightforward. Every new subscriber opts in, and it doesn't matter how they do it, whether they opt in for, to join our newsletter, whether they opt in for a lead magnet, whether they join our Facebook group, whether they come through a webinar, whether they buy something, however they come into our list, we put them into the email. So we have a sequence that delivers the thing, and then we put them into the email engine. And the email engine, we think of like a train made of train cars or train carriages. And each of the carriages in the train is like a separate campaign. And here's how we do it. It's dead simple. Somebody comes into our world. The first thing we do is 10 minutes after they opt in, we put them into our getting to know you sequence. A lot of our stuff is named after songs or things from musicals because we're obsessed with musicals. So from the King and I musical is the song Getting to Know You, and it's from that. So it's basically our take on the welcome sequence. It's 4 days, but we don't just want to welcome people. We want them to get to know us, and we want to get to know them. So in that 4-day sequence, we tell them how often they can expect to hear from us, why that's a good thing. We set up our kind of unique frameworks and our positioning, why that's a good thing. Give them the opportunity to get out if they want to. We find out about them. We segment them based on where they're at and how big their list is and that kind of thing. At the end of the getting to know you sequence, which is 4 days, 4 emails, 4 days, then they go into a series of sales sequences where we sell our core thing. For us, that's our membership, the league. It's open evergreen. If your thing isn't open evergreen, then you can basically be sending them to the waiting list for the next intake and some content to get them warmed up for it. But we have a series of sales sequences, and we get 80+% of people who are ever going to join the membership will do it while they're in that first, it's about 60 days of campaigns. So basically for us, they go through a campaign called the Overture, which is just a straightforward sales campaign. Then they go into a campaign we call the Golden Cloak, which is sort of leads with content and has sales on the back end of it. Mm-hmm. If they don't buy from that, they go into an automated webinar. If they don't buy from that, they go into a sequence called the Interrogator campaign. And basically they go through this like 60 days worth of campaigns. And at the end of that, they then drop into daily emails. Yeah. And basically what that means is that this is running all the time, 365 days of the year for all new subscribers. And it mimics daily emails. It looks like daily emails. They don't know the difference. They don't know that they're currently in automations. And at the end of it, they drop into dailies. It's just that those are really focused, strategically built campaigns designed to make sales really fast. And at the end of that, the only reason somebody wouldn't have bought is really down to the fact that they still don't trust us yet, or the timing's just wrong. They're busy, they've had an operation, they're taking time out, they're not ready to do email yet, they're not ready to commit to email yet, they haven't found the importance of email yet. And basically what that means is now our daily emails and our sort of campaigns we do every 6 to 8 weeks, they're just there to keep going until the time is right. And at some point, the time will be right for that person. We had somebody just a few weeks ago joined the league, our membership, and basically said, listen, I'm glad you've persevered. I've been in and out. I've subscribed, I've unsubscribed, I've subscribed, I've unsubscribed, I've subscribed, I unsubscribed again. And then I finally joined because the time was right for me right now. So those emails are just there to correct the timing issue, which there's no other way of fixing that. You can fix the message, the media, the marketing, you can fix all of that stuff. You can't fix the timing thing if it's just the wrong time. Even if it's not the wrong time, if they think it's the wrong time, that's hard to fix too.
And one of the things I want to just say about this email engine metaphor, the reason we use that and think about it as a train is because each of these automations, they might be made up of, well, the getting to know you sequence has 4 emails, but others are like 6, 12, 18 emails in each train car. The reason we think of them as a train is because if one of them isn't working, you can uncouple it, take it out, and just make your train shorter. But if you've got maybe 2 or 3 automations in place right now, and you can work on another one in the background, and then when you want to extend your train and make it longer, just uncouple 2 of them, put the new automation in, and hook it back up again. So you can constantly be growing this thing. We get really upset with people when we get really taken aback when people say, oh, I can't get people on my list yet because I've only got 1 or 2 automations. I want to get this done and that done. I'm like, get people in, get them working right now. Like 2 automations is a great number of automations. It's more than many people have. And you can always add more in later. And so that's how the train works. Think about getting longer and shorter. Something stops working or you remove an offer, just take that train carriage out. That's not a problem.
And do you, in your engine, I know you were talking about the league, do you have multiple offers? Like what about people who maybe sell 2 or 3 different things to people at different stages?
Sure.
How would they make that work?
Right. So a thing to do is at the beginning, you want to definitely segment people and you want to do that to figure out where they're at or what they need. You can do that a few different ways. One, depending on the lead magnet they actually download, you might have different engines. If it's really that diverse, like if you've got a thing which is about how to build your first course like you do, and you have another thing which is about actually making it more sort of passive and making it scalable, that's probably quite a different audience. You probably want to just, depending on what they join for, you're going to put them in that different engine. You could do that. The other thing you could do is in the getting to know you sequence, that welcome sequence, you can have a survey. We have a survey in ours. We ask people to fill out. You can do that. So you want to segment them through. But yes, you can have multiple offers in that same one engine too. So actually, if you carry on with what Rob was saying about where our engine goes, we have this thing that Rob mentioned called the interrogator, which is like an objection handling campaign, which uses a survey and handles objections for joining the core thing, which is for us. Again, you got to have a core thing. All roads lead to that core thing. And then after that, you might start talking about stuff that has what we call a lower level of commitment. So in our case, our highest level commitment thing you might think is like a membership, maybe. All right. So that's a commitment level. So after that, we actually start offering a standalone one-time purchase course. Because if the person wants to solve their email marketing, which they do, that's why they're on our email list, but they don't want to commit to a membership, well, we still want to help them. So let's offer them one of the splinter products, something that's a course that's inside the membership, and offer that as a standalone. Hey, have a go, because what we want to do is prove we can actually help them by actually helping them.
Yeah.
Right? So let them have that help. So they get into that program and go, are you kidding? This is like a $3,000 course that I just paid $39 for. I can't believe it. Because all of our courses are like the most in-depth thing, insane thing we can put together. Like yours. And so people get in and go, are you joking? And now they're thinking, I want the rest of it. Great. Or if they just need the sales to be able to afford the thing, well, the course is going to get them results to get them the sales to be able to do that thing. So you could, there's 2 bits of that. One is segment early on. The second one is make sure you know what we call is your Rome. What is, if all roads lead to Rome, what is that one thing that everything ends up pointing towards? And if you have that, you simplify your offer structure, you simplify your email marketing, and actually you simplify it from the outside so people know exactly what it is you sell rather than being overwhelmed and confused. Like, is that included? Do I need that? And are you selling that at the minute? Is that closed? That open? People know for sure whatever they listen to of ours, whether in our Facebook group, the podcast, whatever, they know we've got this thing. It's called The League, and it's this awesome email marketing membership. Yeah. And we're going to show you different ways of getting in. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. This is my last question. That's like a hang up about the everyday emailing, because I can hear my audience asking it. Yeah. Do you have an option for people to get it, let's say, as a digest once a week?
So we've played with this and we've tested the heck out of it in our business and some clients as well. And we've changed tack on it. For a while, we did a thing where basically at the bottom of every email, above the real unsubscribe link, there was another link that we just put in ourselves, just a line of text, nothing like the unsubscribe one. And it basically said, want to change how often you hear from us? That's fine. Click here. And when they click there, take them to a little survey. They would just choose, I want to hear from you every day. I want to hear from you once a week, or just tell me when something special is happening. And if they want to unsubscribe completely, they can use the normal link in the email. And so we ran that for a while. The only problem is you do run into some trouble around stuff to do with maintaining engagement, deliverability, and the stuff to do with, like, we have a campaign that sits in the back end of our engine called the LOL Revival campaign, which goes out to people. If they hit the point of 60 days without clicking on a link, we consider them disengaged because we've sent them 60 emails in that time. They then go into our revival campaign, which basically gives them the chance to revive without telling them they've disengaged. And then if they don't, then they go into the third phase of that, which is you really need to click this link. Otherwise, we're going to unsubscribe you completely. Mm-hmm. And the downside of that is, because that's 60 days, if somebody opts to only hear from you once a week, in that period of time, they've only got 8 chances to go and click on a link in that email. And there's a fair chance they just won't. 60 days, engaged people will click on something. In 8 emails, they just might not. And so we've started to think about this slightly differently, which is basically, this sounds horrible. Your subscribers aren't qualified to know what's best for them in terms of you being able to help them and serve them. They're just not. If you say to somebody, do you want me to email you every day or do you want me to email you once a week? Most people are going to choose once a week because it sounds better, but it's definitely not. And so the way we think about it is this: you're qualified to know what's going to help them best. And this is going to help them best in every sense because they're more likely to see the emails. The emails are going to be more digestible and that kind of thing. And it's going to help them with, it's going to help you with your delivery. So the way we think about this now is this. Most people think that when somebody joins your email list and then you send them emails, they think of it as quite an intrusive thing because it's their inbox and you're in it, like you've broken into their house. We flip it around and we think of it, our email marketing, as our house, and we've invited you in. So I've got this lovely house. It's amazing and packed with stuff that I think you'll like. And I want to invite you to come in for a cup of tea. And you step in by putting your name and email address in. And as you come in through the front door into my lovely house, if you don't like the way I make the tea, or you don't like the television program I've got in the background, or you don't like my wallpaper or something else, or you don't like my cat, Kennedy's cat in his case, then that's fine. You can leave at any point, and that's okay. If we offer you too many cups of tea and you feel uncomfortable about it, you can leave. Anything we do that you don't like, we can leave. But our emails are genuinely, and we did a podcast episode about like the therapeutic effect of writing emails. Our email marketing is literally as much for us as it is for the subscriber. And therefore we'll do what we want. And then people can either choose to come on that journey or not. Yeah. So we have a much more flippant view of it than we used to do, just because over testing it, we've just found it's got better results than allowing people too much choice in what they receive.
One of the choices we do give people is if we're currently doing a promotion for something which is not our core thing. So you can't opt out of hearing about the league because otherwise you shouldn't be on our list, honestly, because like that's what we have, right? That's what everything leads to. Whereas if we're doing a summit or something, I don't know, I'm just making things up, right?
I mean, anything really, a 5-day challenge, a webinar.
Or an affiliate thing.
An affiliate promotion. Yeah, exactly. We would put a link in the bottom of that email that says, hey, if you don't want to hear any more about John's amazing SEO course, click here and we'll be back in touch when the promotion's over. Yeah. And somebody asked the other day, just to make sure you've got all the bits to use on this, because I want to make sure you can go and use this stuff. It's really important to us. During that time, we don't send them people emails. Somebody said to me, if they unsubscribe from the current promotion, what do you send those people? The answer is nothing. And the answer is because it's not worth our time to do that. No. The number of people who do it is low. You just tell them, no problem. That's cool. And on the page they've clicked on, it can just say, we'll be back in touch when we resume normal programming, or whatever suits your style. So that's the only thing we do in terms of letting people.
It's kind of like people can't choose to not receive your Instagram posts for the next few months. They can either opt out, they can either unfollow you and then follow you again. Like we want to treat this the same way.
Yeah. That's that analogy was what was going through my head. It's almost like you're creating an Instagram feed through your email. And opt in if you want.
And let's remember, most people are thinking, oh, could I possibly email as much as every single day? Don't do every single day. Do 5 days a week. Do 3 days a week. Don't do less than 3 days a week. Honestly,
Right.
you may as well not bother for the deliverability score and the relationship. Like if you go on a first date with somebody and they don't text you for a week or two, you're probably not going to go on another date with them.
Right.
Honestly, like you want to be the person who's there. But here's the thing. We need to stop thinking about email as that email thing that people check on their computers, because they don't. People are checking their emails on their phones, which means their email is just another app that's sat there snuggled between TikTok and Tinder.
Totally.
And you need to be there for them.
And if anyone is saying, oh, I couldn't possibly think of 5 things a week, my guess is that you're posting on Instagram 5 days a week. And if you can think about content for Instagram, you can just as easily think about content for email. And frankly, it can be the same story, because often Instagram is story-based stuff anyway.
Totally.
Often.
Yeah. Okay. I had all of these other things we were going to talk about, and we just dialed right into that stuff. And that felt like a personal 2-to-1 coaching session, because I might be taking this strategy and going and trying it in my own business. So, you're welcome, everybody listening to the podcast, but I just got some free coaching. I do want, there's like kind of 2 quick things I want you to talk about before we wrap this up. Number 1 is your best subject line. You asked me my best subject line on your show. What is the best subject line that you have ever sent for your business, and why?
Yeah, this one is, we use a lot of innuendos and silliness in our emails because, again, you want to get your personality across. Telling stories is a really good way of accidentally, on purpose, giving your personality across. So we use ours. And so when an offer is closing, I'm going to say this very carefully, this is the subject line. When an offer is closing, so it's like an hour beforehand or the day beforehand or whatever, there's a countdown timer, it's all about to close. We use the subject line rather than like, not long now. Ours says clock tease. Clock tease, and that open rate, when that was reliable, was very, very high, but it does beautifully for us.
I like that one. I think if anyone is going to borrow that subject line, let us know how it goes. And the second thing is, I noticed a really interesting strategy on your email when you and I were communicating about being on each other's podcasts. I noticed on the email, you actually have what's called like your Dream 100 spreadsheet basically linked. It appeared linked anyway in Gmail at the bottom of the email, and kind of said something to the effect of, here are the shows we'd love to be on. Do you know any of these people? And the Dream 100 is sort of this idea of like, if anyone isn't familiar with it, it's sort of thinking about, okay, what are the podcasts or spaces where I would really like to have an interview or be featured. And it becomes almost like the people you want to pitch to. So what is the strategy behind putting that on your email signature? And let's preface this. I don't think this is on your email signature for your daily emails, but it's on your email signature for kind of like intercommunication as a business owner.
Yeah. So we put it on everyone in the team signatures. Basically, it's a Google sheet. And when you link a Google sheet in an email, it like pulls it into the email. It looks like an attachment. It's not, it just sort of looks like one. So it gets lots of eyeballs. And we literally just put together a big long list of all the people that we wanted to get on their radar, but who we couldn't get in touch with ourselves. And we've been amazed by some of the connections that have come from that. So like I think it also sits in the bottom of our support ticket replies, or at least it did for a while. I'm pretty sure it does. So like even when customers get in touch and they get a reply from Linda and our team, like it's on the bottom of there as well. And we've had customers who've just joined our list. We've never heard of them before. They've joined the list, they've come in, they've joined the league, and then they'll read that and they go, oh yeah, no, I know the president of America. I'll put you in touch. Like, honestly, some of the connections have been like unbelievable.
Very, very cool.
So it's totally passive, because if you just like write that once and go, these are the people who either, now for us, we don't have a list of places we want to be on. Ours is like the opposite of the traditional strategy. Ours is like people we'd like to have on our show.
Got it.
As well. So like, it's you can use it in both ways, definitely. But it's just totally passive. And every now and again, somebody will reply and go, by the way, I know Gemma, you guys will get on like a house on fire. Here's an intro or whatever. And it just happens all the time. But once you've written it, you don't do anything else with it. You just leave it in your signature and it's done. And it just works a treat.
Yeah. Very cool. It's like, the passive way to grow your network. Okay. So where can everybody find you? Tell us about this incredible lead magnet that you have about how to get more clicks to your emails, or not to your emails, from your emails to wherever you're sending people. Tell us about that. How can people get their hands on it?
So one of the things that we do is we have something for somebody to click on in every single email that we send. 100% of them have a bunch of links that people can click on. The problem with that is people do get link blind, right? People do see stuff over and over and over again. And so what we've done is we've put together 12 of our favorite ways to like dress up the links in your emails to keep the click-through rates really, really high and get more people paying attention. It's in a free report called Click Tricks, which we put together for you. To grab it, all you have to do is head over to emailmarketingheroes.com/Gemma. You can join our list. You can receive our daily emails if you want to. If you don't want to, you can unsubscribe. That's fine. We encourage it. And then you can check out this free report. I think you'll really like it.
Amazing. Any other things you want to mention before we go? Maybe even tell people about what the league is, because we sort of dropped it throughout the conversation, and they might be curious to just hear a bit more about that.
Sure. I mean, one of the things I think is really tricky is coming up with different ways of framing your offer. Like you've got that one offer, and how do you talk about it from different angles? And one of the things that Rob and I seem to, I don't know why, but we seem to be naturally good at is going, what if we like did this? And it was like a totally different way of looking at an offer. And then we've been using them for years in various businesses. And we basically started sharing them a couple of years ago in our membership. So it's called the League of Email Marketing Heroes. It's a monthly membership where we have a library of more than 30 different email campaigns. So it's a lot for anything you could possibly want to do, from launching your own book to all the campaigns that we use in our business that we talked about today are in there. We literally use what we teach, or we teach what we use. We do 2 group coaching calls a month. We have a whole library of video training. And we also include a membership is something ridiculous, which we just launched. Actually, I think you're the first person we've told about outside of the membership, so I'll tell you about this. Is we launched a tool called Automate Hero, which allows you to do a whole bunch of email automation things like evergreen countdown timers for subscribers, and a whole bunch of amazing, like smart, like when people join your email list through your lead magnet, imagine if on the way through, if the thing that was supposed to be on the tripwire offer on the next page, if they've already bought that, this system knows and will take them to a different offer. So you can always be making the most relevant offers. Like it's a whole bunch of tools, and it's free and only available to members of our membership, because we want to make sure that members of our membership have got every tool you could possibly need to literally blow up your business, grow your business, make more sales of your awesome stuff with email. So it's called the League of Email Marketing Heroes. And it's at, where was that? emailmarketingheroes.com/league. I think. Wasn't expecting to talk about it, but that's where it is.
Amazing. Yeah. I feel like there's going to be people who are just going to want to jump straight in. They want to get your daily emails, but they also just want to jump in and start building up those automations that you talked about and getting all that good stuff. So thank you so much for coming on the show. Such a pleasure. I think we're all going to jump off and start implementing some of the stuff we learned. For those of you who are listening, if you do like either your biggest takeaway from today or what you're going to jump in and start doing right away, maybe it's going to be testing daily emails. I know all 3 of us would love to hear about it. So take a screenshot, post it on Instagram, tag me at Gemma.Bonham-Carter. And what is your handle on Instagram, you guys?
Just at Rob and Kennedy.
At Rob and Kennedy. So tag us both. We would love to hear from you. And that's it for today's show. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you on the next episode of the Course Creator Show.
Cheers.